All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? Crazy stuff keeps happening. Anyway, we got some numbers from the Fed kind of on this stealth QE and or what the market seems to be calling stealth QE. I got my monster here. And this one's kind of a turquoise color, almost clear, but it looks kind of the blue in the thing there. It's a mango. Put this over here, and quite tasty. I like the mango flavor. It's kind of interesting. Look. Almost see through. Interesting. All right. So let's go ahead and start. All trading involves a substantial risk of loss. Past performance not necessarily indicative of future results. This presentation here, informational, educational, and fun, and is not a recommendation to buy or sell anything. If you desire that personal financial advice, hire and consult a financial advisor who can advise you on things such as what you should do. So, popping over here, this was interesting. We have the largest U.S. money market mutual fund weekly inflows. We hit number 5 last week with $116 billion flowing into money market mutual funds. Cash is king, maybe? That's interesting. All that money is going somewhere, and a lot of companies are repatriating dollars after being invested in other places in the world. So we're seeing a lot of money flowing back in the U.S. What does that usually do? Usually pops the stock market, because no better returns historically than the stock market. So we'll see what happens here. It's quite interesting. Several banks are seeing large inflows. Right here, small banks, select small regional banks, seeing record inflows compared to the last 3 or 4 years-ish. So this is pretty crazy. Yeah, that one spike right over here, seeing like $140 million flowing into those small banks. It's one of those things you got to be careful. Looks like this one was KWB Regional Banking Index in the background there, and flows into those regional banks on the left-hand side. All right. Oh, looks like probably more than, I guess that's 1.8 billion or 1.6 billion, roughly. So lots of money flowing into small banks. This was interesting. The Fed announces coordinated daily U.S. dollar swap lines to ease banking crisis. This is part of that stealth QE that I've been mentioning on Friday and again today in the title. They're kind of doing this and not really calling it any kind of QE. Now, right here, we're seeing money pumping in. We got the TGA, the RRP, the reserves, the assets. Well, look at this spike. That money's coming in. That's liquidity hitting the market. Now, they're obviously not QTing. They're not tightening anymore if they're pumping liquidity into the market. And cutting interest rates, which we've got the FOMC meeting coming up starting tomorrow, ending on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Like, how can you raise rates and be backing up the truck, the $1 trillion truck in the back door, and unloading, pallets of trillions of dollars of liquidity into the market and fight inflation? Like, you can't. Like, inflation's from the liquidity in the market. So it doesn't matter what they say. If they raise rates, if they don't raise rates, if they hold them, I'm kind of thinking that we see a flat rate or a cut, a surprise cut. That's where my odds are. If we see a rise, that's just stupid. That's bad policy, and it's going to exacerbate the systemic risk to a bigger failure in bigger crisis coming down the road. So just know if they continue to do rate raises in this environment, that they're gonna blow it all up. It's gonna, we're gonna have a bigger crisis than even what we just kind of have gone through. So we're seeing this overnight discount window. This is like the worst thing banks can take advantage of. It puts their name on a hit list. Start with a S. The hit list starts with S and HIT, for being shorted by hedge funds, and it also for astute people with large amounts of capital. They don't want to be in a bank. They don't want to have their money in a bank that's taking advantage of the discount borrowing window, because that bank is having problems with their capital liquidity, and this is like an emergency source of last resort for money. So we saw almost 150 billion in there. The Fed themselves announced that they had pumped $440 billion of liquidity into helping the FDIC and bailout, not bailouts to those banks. So you combine this together, that's almost $600 billion in a week of liquidity they got pumped into the market to fight that QT that, for months they almost reversed the whole QT that they did all last year. So almost crazy. All right. Let's look at what we actually came for. Find some stuff moving today. And morning, Francois. Morning, Pat. Morning, Kimberly. Alan. Morning, everybody. So we have the S&P 500 above we're holding on, even despite the little pullback on Friday. Holding in here. We're in this red zone. We've got to get up out of here, the resistance zone. And this came from all the way back here, May of last year. So we're pretty much sideways from May of last year through March right now. I'm just completely sideways. And if you zoom it out even more, it just goes right back to the levels we were at in March of 21. I mean, almost to the day. Look at that. Today's March 20th. That was March 18th right there. 2 years completely sideways in the S&P 500. No wonder it's hard to make money when we're just chopping around. All in perspective, right? So, popping over this right here, we're fighting this line on this chart. A little more, that was a very simplistic chart. This is with the candles. You can see we're fighting this area very strongly. This is a gray area until we get up out of here and really above these 40-50 high, this 40-50 high from earlier in the month. Till we get above that, we're not really on any kind of potential uptrend. We're just chopping here. All right, we're below the roadmap line. We're stuck in here. Now, S5FI down here in the reversal zone, just hanging right at about 20. This can lead to a powerful upside move right back up to 80. It's going to eventually pop back up here. Whether we see more downside first or we just start ripping, that's what we got to figure out in the market here. ES just chopping right at the roadmap line. Has not been able to break above yet. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. Hadn't been able to break down. Hadn't been able to break out. So sideways chop. NQ looking strong. I kind of expect it to go up here, test this one more time. It may just rock it out, but I kind of expect it to come up here, retest one more time, hold a higher low, and then get going. NQ is definitely leading. NQ's leading ES, which is leading Russell. Russell's kind of the laggard here, consolidating at the lows, almost completely opposite of NQ. Dollar showing more weakness, potentially getting below this line right here. So watch, if we get a nice solid move down and a close below this line, we are likely to go on down into the 90s on the dollar index. FAZ, get a little pullback, pre-market. FAS, get a little pop. We could see the banks kind of reversing here. I don't think that the whole thing's over, but Google's not really on the list for moving pre-market, so we're kind of sticking to pre-market stuff. All right, Bitcoin continued its ramp up over the weekend here. Looking like Bitcoin stuff is going to continue. My target's up here around 33. Mara showing a nice little pop. Nice potential. We're going to get into the roadmap line here. And if we can break out, my first target's up here around 14 for Mara. Another nice one, BITO. This is the futures ETF for Bitcoin. This one I got a target near term right up here around 20. And it's not that far off. It's 17 right now. I'm in long-term calls for this one to really start rocking. So nice move there. Now, something I was getting alerts on overnight is oil finally hit that $65 target overnight. Beautiful move. Beautiful move. Watching for a bottoming action here. I can bottom right here at the 65 price I've been harping on. It completed the pattern if it goes on down to about 63, and then I have a bigger pattern on another chart that I'll show in Discord that can lead down to 50 if we start breaking down in this area right here. But this 618 at 62.50 kind of extends this move that after this correction up, lower highs, and that really makes this move extended at 62.50. So we could get a bounce, a multi-week bounce, another one of these right here that took even a couple months maybe before we push on lower in oil. So be careful. It may be a reversal. It may be a fake reversal, and we may go lower still. So that one's one to watch. Be careful. FRC pushing lower still. Obviously, they've got some problems. XPEV also pushing lower. PACW getting a little bounce off the bottom potentially. Coin, nice little rally. $3. What was it? 4% up or something already in the pre-market. That one above this level at 82 could take us right back up to this 110 area. I'm watching that one for a breakout right there. NVO consolidating up here at the highs. I do expect that one to retrace. And GLD coming right up into the target zone at 185. Consider booking profits or at least protecting them if you got on that trade. And 190 is the extension target for now. Gold definitely going to rally as the dollar drops out here. So it's going to continue. We do have some extra juice in the tank here, so we could see that 190. But I would be cautious at that point that we might see a reversal. Now, I do have further upside targets up around 200. But I think we're going to see another consolidation before we just go ripping on up higher on gold. GDXU, get a nice little pop here coming up into the roadmap line. We get above that and we can start extending higher than this consolidation we saw at the 55 to 60 zone there. KRTX, nice pop. Again, pharmaceutical biotech stuff, not exactly the best on my patterns, but these all showed up and had a whole list of pharmaceuticals that kind of popped up today. So something shaking up that market this morning. MSTR, following on the Bitcoin rally of the weekend, this one can break out above 306. We've got this kind of consolidation zone all the way up to 360. That'd be a heck of a move, 306 to 360. Get out of there, and we can finally potentially start moving on up 500, the next resistance above 360. ASML, just bounced right off the roadmap line. Classic move. Kind of expected to go up this 720 to 750 area, 760, somewhere right up in there. That's where I expect that one to head next. Beautiful little pattern, and getting some continuation higher here. So conservative entry on that one is above 660 for looking for that 700 area up there. ENPH showing up and continuing its path down to the line here. Support around a 150. Get a little pre-market pop, but I think it's going to keep chugging down here to this line at this point. So I would not trust that one right now. WAL, getting a little bit of pop here. Could come off the bottom. Dangerous on the banks though. Looks like the market just opened. And PNC, Personal Financial Services, or PNC Financial Services. Consolidating at the extension there. May extend lower down to $109 a share. USB, US Bank Corp. Didn't do the reversal there. Extending lower. That's then NYCB, New York Community Bank Corp. It's consolidating at the lows. The PDD, lots of China stuff gotten hit. Came right back to the roadmap line as I drew back here. Almost exactly. Moving the arrow. almost exactly down into the roadmap line, almost to the bottom of the arrow. Imagine that this stuff kind of works. I don't know. Sometimes I get lucky, I guess. And then CWB, this is what, China Internet Bulls, seeing a drop. And then SOXL, seeing a little bit of potential pop. If you want to get in the semiconductor game at a lower price, this one 3x, but it does move at 3x, so the percent gain and percent loss, be careful on that. Nvidia, we're seeing some strength, almost up into the target zone. And then AMD last week, also seeing some strength. We've got a target right up around 110, where I expect AMD to kind of top out. So, all right, I do see Google, please. Whoop, GOG, and not really moving today. Up to the roadmap line, could get some extension. Big tech is kind of like the flight to safety right now. So we're seeing Apple, Google, Microsoft, all these holding up really well. You know, Amazon is being a laggard. Netflix has seen a retrace, holding the roadmap line, and Meta is trying to break out. That's your big tech right there. Yeah, Microsoft, potential to go up and fill that gap. And then potentially test that. Got a little gap right there. Working on filling, almost got there on Friday. So, all right, bias for the day, right? Everybody wants to know. There's not really a great bias right now. Like I said at the beginning, we're kind of consolidating sideways in this resistance. It's resistance because we're trying to go higher. Resistance between the roadmap line and this orange box all come together right here, and we're just chopping in here, finding support at the bottom of the box. We tried to go down, break lower, couldn't do it, so now we're just consolidating right in here. We may continue to consolidate today, tomorrow, and most of Wednesday. Remember, 2 p.m., that's when the fireworks come. We're going to probably set the direction for the next move in the market on Wednesday. Anybody got questions before we wrap this up? That's what I see for the day. Not a lot. We got resistance, we got support, and we got a big news event coming up. So they may hold this in. We have a gamma unclenched. You know, there were almost $3 trillion in options came off on Friday. The next big one is not going to happen until the third Friday of April. There's a lot of fund flows that are waiting for April 1st to start moving. So we may see, we got some headwind heading into April as far as getting some move going in the market. All right. No questions? Cool. We'll be back at you tomorrow again for the Morning Monster at 9:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for coming, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.